Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into Poor Jaw's wildly viler sketch, Battle Conser vs. Media. Now, we're going to objectively unpack the brilliant satirical layers of this sketch without taking any political sides whatsoever. We want to analyze exactly how it uses comedy to critique modern journalism, societal priorities, and even the whole idea of patriotism. It's a fascinating piece of media, so let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First up, we've got a satirical clash. Second, affordable social services. Third, exposing sensationalism. Fourth, ignored issues. And finally, true patriotism. We are going to look right past the jokes to analyze the underlying societal arguments being made here. Section 1, a satirical clash covering the premise of the FIR. Right off the bat, the sketch drops us into this totally chaotic setup at a police station. The educator character, Conser, has actually been arrested under the Arms Act. This immediately establishes the video's exaggerated comedic tone. But it also sets up the core conflict, which is these two totally contrasting narratives. On one side, you have this sensationalist news anchor, Kanchana, who's aggressively accusing him of reckless violence and attempted murder. On the flip side, Conser defends his actions as pure survival instinct. He argues that he fired his weapon into the air strictly for crowd control, just to disperse a violent, faceless mob that was attacking his institute. It's that classic setup of media exaggeration going head-to-head with grounded reality. And, the tension doesn't stop at the arrest. The character drops this absolute gem of a line. The price of speaking the truth is 2 crore rupees. This actually directly references a completely absurd 2 crore defamation suit filed against him by the anchor. And why was he sued? Literally for simply calling the media brokers and sycophants. This moment is absolutely crucial because it sets up the ideological battleground for the whole sketch. It shows how the media, at least in this portrayal, uses legal and financial intimidation to silence its critics. Moving on to Section 2, debating affordable social services and the bizarre logic of population control. This is where the sketch takes a seriously dark, satirical turn into the commercialization of healthcare and education. The anchor character completely unironically confronts Conser about his charitable hospital. She actually argues that by providing cheap healthcare and saving the lives of the poor, he is ruining the nation's population control agenda. I mean, it's a jaw-dropping moment of hyperbole, right? But it brilliantly illustrates the video's dark satire. It highlights how systemic structures can sometimes view human lives merely as statistics, and how cold, capitalist logic can just strip away human empathy. To really hammer this point home, the sketch throws a very specific number at us. 250. That is the cost, just 250 rupees, for an ultrasound at Conser's grassroots hospital. Instead of praising this incredibly affordable social service, the media in the sketch spins it as a massive scam. They interview people who claim he's a thief simply because the service is quote-unquote too cheap. It's a poignant look at how genuinely good deeds can be completely twisted by a cynical media lens. So you can really see the clear dichotomy they're building here. The sketch meticulously builds a wall between two totally different worldviews. On one side, we have the media's narrative, which frames accessible, cheap social services as somehow damaging to the nation's broader agenda. And completely opposing that, you have Conser's steadfast mission, which is providing accessible education to aspiring students and affordable healthcare to those who need it most. It completely neutralizes the anchor's attacks by showing the stark contrast between her cold capitalist logic and his undeniable empathetic social service. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, exposing media sensationalism and the price of truth. Here is where things get wild. This builds into an all-out heavy commentary on media ethics and bribery, using some extreme, almost surreal humor. Conser basically argues that sensationalist media is so ethically compromised that, if paid enough, they would literally spin the benefits of cancer. The anchor then hilariously proves his point by launching into a breaking news segment about how chemotherapy makes you bald, thereby saving you money on shampoo and conditioner. I mean, talk about ridiculous hyperbole. But it's a highly effective way of arguing that modern sensationalist media will spin absolutely anything as positive if they get paid to do it. The sketch also tackles the media's obsession with blowing facts completely out of proportion. The anchor accuses him of spreading a rumor that he rejected a massive 107 crore offer to quit teaching. Conser immediately corrects her. He points out the offer was actually 17 crore, and yes, he firmly rejected it. But then he adds this incredibly sharp comedic jab. He jokes that had he met her earlier and realized the media's true price, that people could so easily sell their souls to the highest bidder, he might have actually taken the money. It's such a clever critique of the lack of integrity in the broadcasting world portrayed here. Now, to ground all this comedic exaggeration in reality, the Consort character explicitly references the Press Freedom Index. He uses India's actual falling ranking on this global index to validate his intense frustration with the anchor's style of journalism. By dropping a real-world metric right into the middle of a comedy sketch, the creator is giving us a massive wink. He's signaling to the audience that beneath all these jokes, there is a very serious, measurable problem being discussed. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down a very common satirical debate over media justification. When Consort complains about domestic issues like inflation and unemployment, the anchor immediately deflects. She uses that classic trope of comparing the country to a struggling neighbor, essentially saying, well, at least we are better than Pakistan. Consort completely rejects this low bar. He argues that comparing yourself to a beggar just to feel superior is foolish. If you truly want to be a great nation, he says, you must strive for global excellence and compare yourself to highly developed countries like Germany or Japan. Next up is Section 4, Ignored Issues versus Distractions, looking at what actually matters. Reaching the climax of the sketch, the comedy totally drops away to make room for some serious societal critique. In a moment of raw anger, the Consort character completely shifts the tone. He impartially lists a series of devastating, real-world tragedies that he accuses the media of completely ignoring. He points to exam paper leaks that are driving desperate students to suicide. He points to the prolonged, devastating crisis in Manipur. He points to rampant food and water adulteration making citizens severely ill. He's demanding to know, why aren't these the breaking news stories? And the reason these real issues are ignored, the sketch suggests, is because of deliberate distraction techniques. Instead of reporting on systemic national crises, the media in the video is obsessing over identity politics. The anchor repeatedly tries to force a religious or identity-based controversy by fixating on his real name, Faisal Khan, rather than his professional name, Consort. The sketch exposes this as a cheap, deliberate tactic to generate outrage and viewership, actively distracting the public from the actual life-or-death issues happening around them. And finally, Section 5, the true meaning of patriotism and questioning the flaws. This brings us to the philosophical takeaway of the video's entire narrative arc. The anchor essentially accuses Consort of only pointing out the bad things in the country, implying he isn't a true patriot. He fires back by completely redefining patriotism away from blind pride and towards accountability. According to the sketch, a true patriot, a Deshbhakt, is not someone who merely boasts about a nation's achievements while playing post-them-up with their eyes closed to reality. A true patriot is someone who loves their country enough to bravely question and actively challenge its flaws so it can get better. He ends his argument with this incredibly empowering statement: education is our religion, and we know how to fulfill our religion very well. This line cements his character's unwavering dedication. It tells the audience that regardless of fake news, defamation lawsuits, or political pressure, his commitment to grassroots education simply will not be shaken. And this highlights exactly why this kind of satire matters today. It forces us to look in the mirror. So I want to leave you with the very question this sketch demands we ask ourselves. Does true patriotism mean only praising your country, or does it require you to bravely question its flaws? Think about how we all consume news, and think about what truly makes a society better. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.